spoke to the prophet Jeremiah about the coming of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon to attack the land of Egypt.
Right. Let's read the name
that,
of...
please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's focus a bit about this on this word. This is Nebuchadrezzar. Okay, how is it different than usual form of this word in the Bible? How this guy is called in other books of the Bible?
With a nun instead of a resh.
Right, with a nun. Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. And his name was not Nebuchadnezzar, neither Nebuchadrezzar. He was Babylonian. Okay. So he had a Babylonian name. Okay. And the Babylonian name was Nabu-kudurri-usur. Okay, Nabu-kudurri-usur is combining that name to three elements. It's a theophoric name containing an element of a divine entity. You know the concept of theophoric names because it's very common. For instance, Netanel, okay, my own name, and so many other names.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Every John, Joe, and Michael are basically theophoric names. Okay. So many biblical names are. So again, that connection between biblical world and biblical culture and the surrounding cultures as well. So Nabu-kudurri, the kudurri, okay, so that part is, we'll get to it in a second, okay, because it's the, for many years people thought it means one thing. Today they think it's something else. We'll get to it. And utsur related to the biblical Hebrew Notzer, and the biblical Hebrew word Notzrim. Some of you might know that the word Notzerim in post-biblical Hebrew is the word for Christians. You might have heard that, but that's the only language I would in which Christians, which means messianic, basically. Christos is someone who is anointed. Hebrew word for anointed is Mashiach or Mashuach. Okay, but in Hebrew, one refers to Christians as Notzerim or Notzrim, as modern Hebrew speakers do not really pronounce this moving Shava as a moving Shava. And that has to do with keepers. Okay, might be related to the word, to the name of the place Nazareth, Nazareth. In any case, the root Netzor and the imperative utsur has to do with keeping. So keep, asking the god Nabu, the god of wisdom, the god of prophecy, the god of scribes, to keep kuduru. So what is this kuduru? So over the years, people thought that kuduru means border stones, like keep my border. Later on, this was understood as firstborn son. Not a very common word for son, but a word for firstborn son. So God, keep my firstborn. Now, mostly in the Bible, we can see the name as Nebuchadnezzar. But, okay, in the book of Jeremiah, we see Nebuchadrezzar, okay? And here, that's the, obviously not Exodus 46:13, but Jeremiah 46:13. Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuchadrezzar as simply two different Hebrew versions of this Babylonian name. Okay, and Nebuchadnezzar is invading Egypt. Okay, this is later on to the events that we've mentioned a bit last week, and this Jeremiah is prophesying against Egypt. Remember that Jeremiah is running away to Egypt, and generally speaking, the prophets, interestingly, prophesy not just about Israel, but also about the nations. Very common prophecies against the nations, almost in every prophet. This is not surprising to find something that is linguistically slightly different with Jeremiah, as the Hebrew of Jeremiah is oftentimes classified as what we call transitional biblical Hebrew. Okay, TBH, sometimes you would see TRBH as well. Transitional biblical Hebrew. It's kind of an evolutionary bridge, if you will, between the very, very standard, or very distinct standard biblical Hebrew and late biblical Hebrew, where we can see very different linguistic features, and we've talked about some of these features in the past. And between these two historical layers, we have a bridge connecting them, that we refer to as standard biblical Hebrew, and I mean traditional biblical Hebrew, between the standard biblical Hebrew and the late biblical Hebrew. And that's what we have in the book of Jeremiah, in some of the linguistic aspects of it. Okay, let's see that. Yeah.
The story of Samson. He was born Nazareth, and he couldn't drink grape juice or wine or cut his hair. Is that related to this word?
No.
Okay, sorry.
No, but it's a good question, because it sounds in English somewhat similar. But if we look at the Hebrew has Zain versus Tzadi. Okay, the root of a Nazarite, okay, is Nun, Zain, and Resh, while the root for keeping, guarding Nazareth Christians has to do with Nun-Tzade-Resh. You do have sometimes in the Bible alternative Nun-Tzade-Resh, which connects to that Zain, okay? To the Tzadi, Nun-Tzade-Resh, Nun-Tzade-Resh, which you can find in the Ten Commandments. By the way, lo tikom velo titor, in the not to